Hello, everyone, and welcome to How to Play a Bigger Game Even When You Already Play Big. In this 40 to 45 minute program, you're going to discover why the things that got you where you are today may not be the same things that get you to the next level. You'll learn what's needed to achieve even greater heights, how to see what's next, and how you can have a greater impact on the world. I want to thank you for coming today. I appreciate you spending your time today with me and spending this time on yourself. And I do hope you've marked off this time. Really take this time for you. Be in a quiet place, stay focused, don't check your email, turn off your phone ringer and all your notifications. Just be here in the present, in this space for the next 45 minutes or so. Now, I'm Susan Baroncini-Moe, and I'll be leading this webinar today as well as the others in this series. I'm an executive coach with over 16 years experience working primarily with successful women who are executives, entrepreneurs, and other high performers. I have a master's degree in social psychology, and I've spent and I continue to spend lots of time in training to keep my skill set fresh. I'm the author of the book, Business in Blue Jeans, How to Have a Successful Business on Your Own Terms, in Your Own Style, available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and many other fine booksellers. I've worked with clients on 4 continents in a wide range of industries, and just a few fun facts. I held the Guinness World Records title for the world's longest uninterrupted live webcast for 2 years. I've tried over 100 hobbies in my life. I've played violin for the last 38 years, and I'm on the board of directors for the Junior League of Indianapolis. I've also read over 2,500 books on the subjects of personal development and personal growth, business, leadership, entrepreneurship, psychology, psychiatry, coaching, wellness, networking, relationships, interpersonal dynamics, philosophy, and management. Now, I suppose you could say that I play big, but I'm always wondering, am I playing big enough? Could I play bigger? Could I achieve more? And am I having a big enough impact on the world? Now, fortunately for me, I coach high-performing individuals, particularly women, who are doing great things in their lives, in their communities, and in the world. So not only do I tend to play big in my own life, I play big kind of by proxy by helping my clients to play bigger and to have a stronger impact. Now, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to talk about what it means to play big. We'll discuss why the things that got you where you are today aren't the same things that will get you to the next thing. We'll talk about why we shrink from playing big and how not to do that. And we'll also talk about how to move on to the next thing. Now, I hope you've downloaded and printed out the workbook. There's a link in the comments if you haven't done that yet. We're going to do some exercises that will help you to dive deep. So if you haven't looked at the workbook, if you haven't downloaded it yet, print it out. Make sure that you're ready with pen and paper. So what does it mean to play big? Now, playing big to me means that you're making the most of the gift of life. This is your shot. We each get, if we're lucky, about 80 to 100 years here, and that's if we get really lucky. So if you're playing big, you're making the most of what you've been given. You're pushing the boundaries of your potential, and you're pushing outside what you think you're capable of. You're pushing outside your comfort zone and you're expanding it. And playing bigger really does mean pushing your comfort zone, challenging your beliefs about what's possible for you beyond what you've done before, and doing things that make you uncomfortable. It means looking for how you can have a bigger, broader impact, how you can make the world a better place, how you can contribute. But most importantly, how you play big and what that means is completely individual. It's a bit like the word adventure. What constitutes an adventure for me might not be big enough or bold enough an adventure for you, or vice versa. So the first thing I want you to be aware of is that the definition of playing big is completely up to you and your unique perspective and experiences. And what might be playing big to you may not be big to someone else, but it doesn't matter. This is all subjective. It's all about what's relevant to you. So it's no fair comparing yourself to other people for this one. The second thing I want you to be aware of is that you need to be careful with the idea of playing bigger. Sometimes your life might be severely out of balance. One way that people avoid creating balance and working on the areas they need to work on is by seeking to push harder in one area that's working. So for example, let's say you're pushing really hard in your career and you're succeeding, you're doing great, But if on the way to being successful in your career, you've sacrificed your marriage, then you might not be playing the full game and playing big across the board. One way of avoiding working on your marriage is to say, I want to play a bigger game and try to focus even more on your career. And that's not the way to play bigger. In fact, your definition of playing bigger could be to just focus on your marriage and make that work even better. Now, I'm not suggesting as a woman that our marriages are the only thing, but it is something that should be a priority. And it's important that I make you aware of these things up front and at the beginning, because this is what we call ecology. Ecology means basically, as a coach, I make sure that you achieving your goals in one area doesn't negatively impact your goals in another area. So achieving your goals in your career is wonderful, and we want that, right? But not at the cost of your goals, for example, for having a great marriage. So if you want to have a great marriage, and that's an important thing to you, we have to find out how you can achieve your goals in your career without sacrificing your goals in your marriage. That's all I'm saying. So ecology is important when it comes to playing a bigger game. Okay, we are actually getting into your workbook pretty fast in this workshop today. It's faster than I usually do, but we've already gotten into something that's worth a little digging. Now, I really want you to do the exercises in the workbook today. Again, that link is in the comments. Just thinking you'll do it later, you won't do it. If you're looking at this on the blog post, it's actually in the blog post. If you say, I'll do this later, you probably won't do it later. If you say, oh, I know this, I'm going to think about it, it won't have the same impact as actually doing the work now. There's something in the act of handwriting, there's something tangible that actually connects to our brains and impacts us differently from typing and from just thinking about something. So it is important for you to actually do this work. And since I have you here, you've already blocked off this time, so I'm going to encourage you to go for it. So today, the first exercise in your workbook is to actually write out, what does playing big mean to you? And again, remember, it doesn't matter what it means to anyone else. It's about what's important to you. So what would be the next step for you? Take some time. I'm going to give you about a minute. I'm going to mute my mic so that you can just have some quiet time to concentrate on that, and then we'll come right back. Okay, now that you've outlined what the next step would be for you, the next thing I want to talk about is why you want to play a bigger game. Why do we do this? Why does it matter? Well, some people say if you're not growing, you're dying. And for a long time, I thought, well, that is really stupid. I thought for a long time it was just a terrible thing to say. I thought it was just arrogant, and I really did. I thought, that's not true. Sometimes just being where I am is fine. That's true. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But the idea, if you're not growing, you're dying, it's a simple platitude. And so I want to take a minute and step back from that and say, okay, let's talk about why that's important. So in your mind, visualize a plant. Okay, so a plant goes from a seed. You plant the seed, you fertilize it, it grows. It grows maybe into a tree, and it creates little blossoms, and then those blossoms maybe turn into an apple. Now, when an apple's on the tree, it's growing, right? It's on the tree, it's growing, it's getting a little bigger, and at some point, it gets picked. That's when it starts to die. And it's not always easy to see that. When you go to the store or the market and you see an apple, you look at it and you think, oh, that's beautiful, it's ripe, it's at its ideal state, it's perfect. You don't think of it as a dying thing, but it actually has stopped growing. It's dying. If you leave it sitting there, it will rot. And as people, we're like that. We're like, if you let yourself stay in stasis in the same place in your life for too long, you are like that apple sitting in the market waiting to die. And that sounds so dramatic, but the thing is, things might look great on the surface. You might be, you might look great on the surface. You might look ripe, right? You might have a good car, you have a nice house, you have a great salary. But many of my clients have come to me and said, I'm content. I have everything I need, but I don't feel like I'm growing. So you might want to move up a level because you want to keep growing, and growth is important. Sometimes people have what they want materially, but they find they've created a life without meaning. They're unfulfilled. So sometimes they say, I have everything I need, but something's missing. So one reason to play bigger is to find more meaning in your life, to find something that feeds your soul. Another reason you might want to play bigger is that you've already hit all the high notes in your career and now you're bored. So again, another reason, boredom. You might want to play bigger because you missed something along the way and you want to build on that area. That's the balance and ecology I mentioned earlier. So for example, I am looking to seek balance right now in the physical area of my life. I had hip surgery a few months ago, and so I haven't exercised the way I normally would. And so I feel a little out of balance in that way. And so I'm working very hard to sort of build that part of my area up and play that in a bigger game in that part of my life. Another part of this is that I've always felt like while I played big in every area of my life, there was one area I never played big in, and that was my physical health. I've never really pushed myself really hard. I've always felt like I've been holding back. And so you might want to play a bigger game because you felt like you've always been holding back from what you're actually capable of, and you don't want to do that anymore. So I am working very hard so that next year, when I'm done with physical therapy and I'm strong again, who knows what I'm capable of? Who knows what kind of playing big I'll do? So that's the kind of thing you want to look for. Are there areas of your life where you've been holding back and you haven't been really fulfilling your full potential? I know we were just in our workbooks, but we have another moment that needs to be looked at. So part of knowing and part of understanding a goal and moving forward in that goal is having your why. So why are you interested in playing bigger? What are you looking for? What are you after? And why are you looking to play a bigger game? So we're going to take another minute and you're going to work in your workbooks. And again, please really do this work. It's so important. So I'm going to mute my mic for 1 minute and we'll be right back. Okay, I hope you're doing this work. Otherwise, there are these breaks in the recording for no reason. All right, sometimes we're stuck on a plateau. Sometimes you can't play a bigger game because you're just stuck. So what if you are on a plateau? What if you feel stuck? Well, first of all, it is okay to hit the pause button on growth, as long as you don't stay there too long. It's okay to say, I'm going to hang out here for a little while. I'm going to rest a bit. And then I'm going to get moving forward to the next thing. Because life isn't all about growth. Growth is important, but you can just take a minute and enjoy the success of being here. That's okay. I actually encourage you to pause and savor success at every level. Enjoy the moment and take it all in. Just don't let yourself get stuck there. You don't want to pause to savor the moment and then realize like 8 months or 8 years later, oh my gosh, I paused on my progress forward because I thought I had to learn all these skills and, master this new job, but I kind of forgot to keep moving forward. Oops. You don't want to do that. So a good place to start in figuring out why you're on a plateau is by asking yourself useful and important questions. This is the kind of work that I do with my clients all the time, only I'm the one asking the questions and offering insights as we work through the answers. In this case, you're asking yourself the questions. So the kind of questions you want to ask are things like, am I staying on a plateau because I'm not sure where I want to go next? Am I here because I'm afraid? Am I on this plateau because something is holding me back? Or am I here because of stuff that's going on in my life? So these are all good questions because they help you to see where you need to do some work and then you know where you need to start. So let's break this down a little bit. A plateau is a special case where you've gotten stuck and there are lots and lots of reasons why you are where you are now and not at that next level. And so let's look at some of these specific reasons. One is life events. Now, sometimes problems, life changes, just stuff that happens in life, it can get in the way. We need energy to create new things, and we have to be open to new things. It can be very difficult to get to the next level, and sometimes we're too busy to even see what's next. We've hit the pause button, and sometimes you're so busy you don't even notice you hit the pause button. It is important to acknowledge when life events get in the way, and it's more important to say, it's okay, I needed that time, and to acknowledge that life events sometimes require energy that you simply cannot give to your career. It's okay to pause and address the rest of your life. That's what happens. A kid gets sick, or the IRS says we're auditing you this year, or you have to take care of a parent, or you have to have surgery. Things happen. Life happens. And you can't beat yourself up for taking time out to cope with what life has thrown at you. You need to acknowledge that it's okay. Some of my clients have needed to do some very deep work to forgive themselves for letting life get in the way, as if we're not supposed to do that. And I think we sometimes culturally, we believe, no, life shouldn't get in the way. It doesn't matter what's going on in your life. No, we need balance. And it does matter to look around at your life and to be aware that it is okay. So sometimes ask yourself, is something happening in my life that I'm not open to new things or new experiences or new growth, or that I don't even have the time or energy to think about those things? And have you acknowledged that it's okay to take the time out for those things and to give those things your energy? Those are important pieces I want you to be thinking about. Another reason you might be on a plateau is imposter syndrome. We talked in last week's seminar about imposter syndrome. The question of, do I deserve this success? Do I deserve more? Am I worthy of more? And the feeling like you don't deserve success and you've simply fooled everyone into believing that you're capable. If this resonates with you, we're putting that webinar on YouTube today, and it will be on the same channel. So be sure to check out that webinar. It might help you to address some of your imposter syndrome issues. So just look for that, because this is a big one. If you don't feel like you deserve the success you have, you'll be a lot less likely to pursue more success. If you do happen to keep moving forward up that ladder, your imposter syndrome will keep getting worse and worse and worse. The research shows that people who have imposter syndrome get worse and worse the more responsibility they have. So the more responsibility you're given, the more convinced you'll be that you don't deserve to be here. And the more terrified you'll be, somebody's going to find out. They're going to know. So you have to address imposter syndrome to keep it from plaguing you as you begin to play a bigger and bigger game. Now, luck is an important one. And I don't mean like, bad luck or good luck. What I mean is sometimes you think you just got lucky. Now, that's something we're going to be covering in one of the upcoming seminars. So look for that. If you think it was luck that got you here, you may be okay with staying where you are, because you might think, I didn't really have any control about where I got here, so I don't have any control over getting further along. This is kind of similar to imposter syndrome, but it's a little different. It will also only get worse as you play a bigger game, so it is important that you work on this and you get rid of it so you can keep moving forward. Fear. Sometimes going to that next step is scary, and it's scary for reasons other than imposter syndrome and these other similar phenomena. We're not sure we're ready for the challenges that will come. Change is scary, and we're not sure if we're ready. We're not sure if we're prepared for all the new obstacles and challenges that we're about to face. There's a fantastic book called Mastery. And in that book, the author talks about how mastery is a lifelong journey and it's not linear. It has ups and downs. The reason you achieve mastery by learning and so you achieve mastery by learning and learning rarely happens linearly. In fact, you make progress, then you flatline a little bit, you think you're not progressing, you might even regress a little bit, but then boom, you achieve the next level. And then you stay there for a little bit, you progress, and then you maybe regress a little bit, and then boom, you're at the next level. Mastery works very differently from the way that we think it does. Success is the same. It has ups and downs. It's not linear. When you achieve a new level of success and you stay there for a bit, you might feel when you get into that new role, let's say in your career, for example, you might feel like you don't know what you're doing. And so you feel like you've regressed a bit as you acquire the new skills and knowledge before you up level again. So, for example, with my physical fitness challenge and the way I'm trying to play a bigger game there, getting into the gym again, I feel like I'm so weak and I have terrible cardio. And so I feel like I can't handle it. Well, as I've worked harder, I've acquired new skills. My body has gotten healthier. And so I can do more. But the second I try something new, like I try to lift a heavier weight or I try to run, which is very hard when you've had hip surgery, the things that I try to do that are new things, I immediately feel like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. And it works differently than we think. We have this idea that success and mastery are these linear things. The more you do, the better you get. You just keep moving up. But in reality, they're just not like that. They're far more complex. Actually, now I'm thinking what success looks like is probably a topic for its own webinar, because these things, mastery and success, are just so interesting and they don't look the way many people think they do. So this might be something we do in the spring as a webinar. All right, another thing that might keep you on a plateau is you might not be ready. You might actually not be ready. So now might not be the time for you. When you're ready to raise the bar to the next level, there are challenges that come with it, and you have to start to prepare for the challenges that come. We'll talk about that in a little bit. You have to ask yourself, are you ready to play that new game? Have you been doing the things that are the things that get you ready? Also, you might not know where to start. Maybe you aren't sure what's necessary to get you to the next step. That's okay. Sometimes we can't see the path ahead clearly enough. And because, as we've discussed, playing a bigger game isn't just about career, it's about your whole life and about more than just one aspect. It's not always helpful to just ask a supervisor or someone at work, which, by the way, is very difficult if you're already in the C-suite, because who would you ask? It's also problematic because it's not about what you need to do to get the next job. It might be a skill issue, but it's also bigger than that. It's about who you need to be to get to that next level, which might include skills in the job, but it's bigger than that. So sometimes this requires kind of an expansion of possibilities and an opening of the mind. Now, you might not know what other options are. Sometimes, especially if you're in the C-suite right now, you may feel like, where could I possibly go from here? I've done everything. And it seems like, okay, maybe I can go to a bigger company, or maybe I can go to a different company or find a different challenge. But those things all tend to feel kind of lateral. So how do you play bigger when you're at the top? And if you can't see what all the options are and what you might be able to try, it's very hard to see what you could possibly do next so you could go bigger. So this one is about thinking creatively about all the areas of your life. Now, I once heard a story about a rock climbing trainer, and he would teach these classes. And at the end of the class, the test was to climb this particular mountain. And the way he said he could tell if someone was going to be a successful mountain climber was that if the test mountain actually ended in what they thought was the top, like they looked at it and they're like, okay, that's what I have to climb. But when they got to the top, they actually realized that was just a plateau that was a resting place to keep climbing, because there was a whole other peak after that. So the way he knew if someone was going to be successful was that the people who got to the plateau and kind of freaked out, oh my gosh, there's more, I have to do more, oh my gosh, I thought this was the top. Those were the people who were unlikely to be successful climbers. The people who got to the top realized that there was a whole other mountain to climb and laughed and said, all right, how do I get to the next peak? How do I get to that one? What do I need to do? Those were the people who were likely to be most successful. And that's how coaching works. People think that coaching is like a remedial activity, like you do this to fix something that's broken. But coaching is actually used by super successful people, by high-performing individuals, to keep making progress and being successful, because they know that what got you here to this point in your life may not be the same things that got you to the next level in life. So it's important to keep growing and challenging yourself to get to the next peak. And so if you think about it, like you climb that first peak and it's one kind of rock and maybe it, has certain kinds of challenges. The next peak might have slightly different kinds of rocks and different kinds of challenges. And so you need to keep growing and challenging yourself to get to the next thing. And it's really a game that never ends. And that's kind of the beauty of it, I think. So, all right, workbook time. If you've been stuck on a plateau, I want you to dig a little deep here. Do a deep dive and find out why. What's happening in your life that you aren't open to new levels of success and that you haven't been playing a bigger game? Have you been needed elsewhere? Remember that sometimes life events keep us from giving our energy to our careers, and it's important to let that be okay. Do you have imposter syndrome? Do you think you just got lucky and you can't make more happen? Are you afraid to try, or that you're not ready, or are you not ready? Or can you not see the path ahead? So take a few moments, think about this. I'm going to mute my mic again and have a sip of water and just work on those questions in your workbook, and I'll be back in just a moment. Okay. Once you have an idea about what might be getting in your way and why you might be on a plateau, you can start to address what's holding you back. Now, as a coach, I think it's best to address certain issues first before anything else. So, for example, I like to address issues of imposter syndrome, uncertainty, the feeling that you just got lucky to get where you are, and general fear, not knowing where to start or what the options are. Those things are best handled before you do anything else. If you can't get past these things, they'll ultimately color your perceptions of the world. They'll create limiting beliefs about you, about what's possible, and about the world. And those are things that actually keep you from playing bigger. So we start here. Before we think about what's next, we start with coaching around the big issues so we can resolve them before we move forward. There's a story that I included in my book, Business in Blue Jeans, that I'm going to share with you today. And I'm telling you not to sell more books, but because as I start to read this section, I don't want you to go, whoa, is she just reading this? So I wanted you to know I'm reading this from my own book. And this is a section called Grasshopper Mode. And I also want to preface this by saying I'm not a particularly religious person, but this happened to be a perfect and poignant story. There's a story in the Bible about the children of Israel who, upon reaching the promised land, were afraid to enter. The verse says, "And there we saw the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight." This grasshopper mode is something that happens to everyone. We see the giants in our field and we think of ourselves as grasshoppers. But we've all been grasshoppers at one time or another. And more importantly, we're all grasshoppers compared to someone with more experience or expertise. Bravo has a cooking competition show for aspiring chefs called Top Chef. Throughout the competition, young professionals competing on the show encounter the best chefs in the world as the master chefs come to judge various competitions. You can see how starstruck the aspiring chefs are. You can literally see them shift into grasshopper mode when they see themselves as small and the master chefs as giants. After a few seasons of Top Chef, Bravo created a new series called Top Chef Masters, in which the best chefs in the world compete for donations to charitable causes in the same kinds of competitions as the young professional chefs endure in the regular series. What's fascinating about the Top Chef Masters series isn't the mastery of cooking, but rather the experience of the giants in the culinary world. Going through this competition and being challenged in new ways humbles the chefs, and the audience gets to see them experience quite a bit of self-doubt and fear. They become the grasshoppers. So you see, we're all grasshoppers and we're all giants. Here's where it gets really interesting. Going back to that verse, and there we saw the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight. When you see yourself as a grasshopper, you essentially teach others how to see you. You put off a vibe that tells people that you see yourself as a grasshopper and that, in fact, you are a grasshopper. See yourself as small and insignificant, and others will see you that way too. But see yourself as someone important, as someone who's on the verge of being hugely successful, and that's how the world will see you. If you see yourself as a grasshopper, though, it's not so easy to start seeing yourself as a giant. And even giants have their grasshopper days. Successful people experience fear and doubt and mindset issues all the time, just like you do. We just know what to do about it. Mindset matters because your mindset, where your head is, guides everything else. Your mindset guides how well you can think big, how much you believe in your ability to succeed, how well you can think creatively and outside the box, and whether you can stay motivated. Mindset is, in short, everything. Also, if your mindset is all junked up with limitations about who you are and what you can accomplish, you'll be finished before you even start. As children, we dream of being astronauts, rocket scientists. Do you remember? What did you dream about? Was it going to the moon, fighting fires, flying in the air? As children, there's absolutely nothing holding us back. But as we grow, we develop ideas about who we are and what we're capable of. People tell us we're not good enough or we can't do certain things. We're told we need to be realistic. And when we incorporate these statements into our psyche, they turn into beliefs about who we are and what we can accomplish. They become limiting beliefs. As we incorporate these limiting beliefs into who we are, we begin to forget our dreams or minimize our successes. And we try to, quote unquote, put things into perspective. We make our dreams smaller so we don't have to deal with disappointment. We keep quiet about what we wish for so that people don't call us dreamers. So the important thing is you want to be thinking about, if you want to start playing a bigger game, the first step is to get rid of all the obstacles that are in your way. So how do you do that? And that's a really tricky question because I'm going to just be really honest with you here. The answer to how do you deal with your obstacles is it depends on the obstacle. I'm sorry. I have a big toolbox with a few tools for each obstacle, okay? As a coach, that's how I operate. But it would be almost impossible. Well, it would be impossible to share all these tools with you in the context of a 45-minute webinar. Suffice to say, it is important to work through this junk before you can move forward and play a bigger game. And I apologize that I can't get more specific with techniques and things, but if you want to get more specific at the end of this webinar, I am going to give you my contact information. So if you want to find out how to address your specific situation, we can have a conversation. Now, once you've gotten rid of the obstacles, you can start to design your life. Because the obstacles will impact how you design your life, right? So you want to get rid of those first, then design your life. Envision your ideal average day. Now, that's not a dream day. It's an ideal average day. So what does your average day look like in your life? The one that you are aspiring to. How do you spend your time? Who do you spend your day with? Don't be afraid to think outside the box here. You don't, for example, have to be in an office. This is your ideal average day. So when I did mine, my ideal average day is I work from home, I work with my clients, and most of my appointments are in the afternoons, depending on the client. And I have a good chunk of space that I can do personal projects, writing, studying, and other activities that I want to work. But I have good chunks available to me of time. So you want to think about your ideal average day and design that day. Then think about what kind of impact you want to make on the world that you're not already making. So are there any issues in the world that you want to address or improve? Now, one of my favorite questions is, if in a year's time, you and I are talking and you describe your life and it's awesome, what does it look like? You want to describe your life fully. What are your relationships like? How do you spend your time during and after work hours? Do you volunteer with an organization? How is your life different then from what it looks like now? I give my clients a homework assignment to put time in their calendars once a month to switch off and just switch off completely. Some people need this kind of time once a week, but it's me time, right? It's quiet time that allows you to develop ideas, especially if you're not sure what that next step looks like. So you want to sit in the quiet. You want to put time in your calendar and switch off completely. This is me time for a walk in nature, have a massage, go for a swim or a jog. But start your day with a big question, like, what's the biggest impact that I can have in my lifetime? What's the difference that I want to make in 25 years' time? This is basically crafting time for you to see the amazing things that could be on the way and think about how to make them happen. Now, if you have too many ideas, make a list of the ideas, put them on paper, and just keep adding to the list. There will come a time when you'll know when you've hit the thing. And a friend of mine says you have to be able to say, hell yes, or hell no to every single idea. If it's not a hell yes, then it's a hell no. And until you have a hell yes, everything is a hell no. Now, for now, maybe you haven't found your hell yes yet. That's okay. For me, it's changed over time, and I didn't always know what would be next. So for now, sit with hell yes or hell no. And if it's not a hell yes, you should know that immediately. When it comes up, you'll know, and nothing will stop you when you get that hell yes. But just ponder what things are hell yes versus hell no. Okay, now that we've talked about what's next, we're going to go back to your workbook for a minute or so. You're going to find questions around when you can spend some me time, when you can put that in your calendar, what kind of impact you want to have on the world, and the really big one, if in a year's time you and I are talking and you're describing your life to me and it's amazing, what does that look like? And I'd also like you to think about what your ideal day looks like. So describe that fully. And I'm going to mute my mic for a minute or so, and I'll be right back. Okay. It is important that you are prepared for new challenges. When you're ready to raise the bar to the next level, there are challenges that come along with it. So you have to be prepared for the challenges that will come. So be sure you're ready, and then you can start to assess what comes next and how to handle those challenges. Now may not be the time. So the question you have to ask yourself is, are you ready to play that new game? If you're not, it's time to get ready, because you want to be sure you're ready when the next thing appears. So we're going to talk about the challenges that may come. It's not just about being ready skill-wise, although skills are important. You may need skills for whatever you're going to next. But if you also want that shift to be possible, what are the tangible shifts that you need to make to play the new game? Like, what's the new language you need to speak? And what are the new beliefs you need to have about yourself? What are the new behaviors that are in line? And what's also out of alignment with the person you have to be at the next level? As you think about going to the next level, you may be envisioning yourself as a confident person who is able to do X. And you may have to evolve yourself. You may have to learn new behaviors and new beliefs about who you are and about the world around you, and new languaging. There may be a language of the next level of your success. So you want to be thinking about whether or not, are you giving a pass to yourself when it comes to certain behaviors? Are you just letting yourself get away with certain things that, if the CEO in your company and you aspire is someone who wears suits and looks really smart every day, and you're aspiring to that, but you wear jeans every day, it might be time to think about, do I need to up-level my wardrobe? That sounds like a pretty surface thing, but it actually makes a difference. That's one of those things that's kind of outside in, that you change outside in. You want to think about language, and if you need to up-level your language and learn new ways of communicating. Do you need to improve your written communication? There are a lot of different ways that you could up-level, and you want to get really clear on what the kinds of things are and start to play with what's next, and things will begin to shift. You also want to build the support team you need. Who do you need in key roles, and what traits do they need to have? These are the people who will guide you, who will help encourage you, who will help you stay on the path and remember what you want to do. These are all things that you need to do to prepare and assess and see what's next. So as you decide to play a bigger game, there are going to be obstacles in the way, and to play bigger, you have to be prepared and excited to face those obstacles. Remember, you have to decide if you're willing to be the person you need to be to get there. And it's just like getting to the top of that mountain and seeing there's more mountain to climb. You have to decide, are you going to be the mountain climber who's excited about that next level? Here's some important things I want you to take away from today. First, you will have to stretch, and it will be uncomfortable, but it's good to stretch. And if you think about it in physical terms, it's like yoga. When you first start yoga, you're thinking, I cannot believe I'm so inflexible. What happened to me? I know this because I'm restarting yoga on Friday, and it's going to be painful. But every day you stretch, right? You stretch, you can feel that pull in your muscles. And then one day you realize you can touch your toes, or you can do something else you couldn't do before. You just keep stretching and making progress inch by inch. And life is like that. You have to stretch to get better at stretching, and you have to stretch to play a bigger game. The point is that when you stretch the first time, you feel a pull in the muscle. And eventually what was a stretch before isn't a stretch now. So you have to stretch further. So you're going to have to stretch, and at first it will be uncomfortable. And then once it gets comfortable, you guessed it, you have to stretch again, and that will be uncomfortable. There will be challenges and even failures along the way, and that's also okay. Challenges and failures may come. It happens. Life is complex, and as we've seen, mastery and success are not linear. You're going to butt against challenges as you try new things, and yes, you'll fail sometimes, and that's also okay. Failure provides us with important learning experiences, so we know what not to do next time. Every failure comes with valuable experience, so instead of self-recrimination, I want you to look for the lessons in the failure. It is totally okay to be afraid or anxious. I would be very surprised if you weren't. Pretty much everyone gets nervous when they decide to go for it and play a bigger game. One of the things we discussed in last week's Imposter Syndrome webinar is that sometimes the people who appear the most confident are the people who feel the least confident inside. You never know what people are thinking, so don't worry about what anyone else is doing. Focus on your own game and how you feel inside, and it's okay to feel afraid. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's feeling the fear and doing the thing anyway. To play a bigger game, you're going to have to invest in your future. When I talk about investing, people usually think I'm talking about money. I'm actually talking about investing in a wide variety of ways. Sometimes that involves money, but if you need to take a training to acquire a new skill, you do that. If you need to hire someone to help you restyle your wardrobe, you do that. If you need to work on your brain junk, you do that. But equally important is to invest energy and time into your future. Take time out for yourself to have downtime and me time and think about what's next. Put in the energy to achieve at least some measure of balance and overall sound ecology. You want to invest in a variety of ways. It's almost easier to up-level when you have an ally who can help you when it gets tough, because strategies will help you through the most difficult times. There will be times when it's really difficult and you're not sure what to do next. There will be times when you get stuck and you don't know how to get unstuck or how to get through the plateau. And the good news is, no matter what you're going through, there are strategies to get you where you want to go. And finally, the only thing holding you back is you. The truth is, we do hold ourselves back, and it's largely due to fear or limiting beliefs. We either don't think we're capable of more, or we're afraid to go for more. We are afraid of failure. We're afraid of stepping up to the plate. What if we strike out? The reality is that in life, we tend to regret the opportunities we didn't take rather than ones that we did take. So consider that, ponder that. This is your shot at life. So decide today that you're not going to let fear get in your way. Now, those of you who are on this webinar who would enjoy doing a session with me, I'm more than happy to do that. I'm not offering it to everyone, but if you are watching this, we'll explore. We'll see what your life is like and see how we might apply what we talked about today and how it might apply to you specifically. So just email me at the address on your screen and we will schedule a time to have a conversation. Also, please remember that next week, this series continues with 2 webinars, one on Tuesday and one on Wednesday. I think I must be crazy. On Tuesday, we have the Leader's Guide to Self-Value and Delegation. And on Wednesday, we have Recession-Proof Your Business, Managing Economic PTSD, and Ensuring the Future of Your Business. The week after that, I'll be leading webinars on the feeling that you got where you are today because you got lucky, and one on easing transitions in your life and in your career. And I hope you'll join me for those. Thank you again so much for taking your time today to spend time with me and with yourself and to really explore this topic. And I will see you next time.